Hi everyone, the small engine mechanic here. Today we will be replacing the bent crankshaft on this Honda HRN 216. So, let's get started. After removing the fuel and oil, we will need to remove the blade and pulleys from the bottom. Then remove the blade holder bolt. The belt guide can be removed next. Sometimes a puller is needed to remove the holder. And now it's off. Remove the drive belt, and the drive pulley will be next. We will need another puller to remove this one too. Once the puller is installed, the pulley can now be removed. You might need to reinstall the bolt to get the pulley to move further. Now the pulley has been removed. We can start on the top of the engine. To remove the blower cover, there is a Phillips head screw and clip that has to be removed first. Then there are 4 clips that will need to be depressed. Remove the gas cap and lift the engine cover up. Now using a 5/16 socket, remove the 5 bolts holding the blower housing down. And move it to the side. For now, I'm putting a towel in the fuel tank to keep dust out. Now, we can remove the flywheel. Using a 5/16 socket, remove the ignition coil bolts and coil. The flywheel nut will be next. We will need another pulley puller to remove the flywheel. I usually put a ratchet strap on the puller to help hold it. Then using a wrench, tighten the puller until the flywheel breaks free from the crankshaft. Remove the puller and the flywheel will lift right off. Be sure to remove the flywheel shaft key. A quick blow down. And we will remove the engine brake assembly. Next will be the sump cover bolts. Using a flathead screwdriver, remove the cover from the sump. You will need to use multiple points to break it free. Once free, it will lift right off. Now, we will align the piston for the connecting rod cap removal. Once the two bolts have been removed, you can remove the cap. Sometimes you will need a screwdriver to help remove it. This one has a blue mark from the factory that can be used to indicate which side is up. Now, push the piston a little further into the cylinder so the crankshaft will clear the connecting rod. Then it's the simple task of carefully pulling the crankshaft out. From the old crankshaft, we will need to remove the timing gear. The red cap has motor oil in it. Here's the new crankshaft. I apply a thin film of motor oil before installing the timing gear. Turn the cam gear until the two dots are visible. These are used to set the timing. These two dots will line up with these two. Then you can insert the new crankshaft into the engine. Sometimes the gear might slip off, so you might need to reset it. Apply some oil to the connecting rod. Pull the connecting rod out some and rotate the crankshaft until it meets up with the connecting rod. Apply some oil to the connecting rod cap and reinstall it, and thread the two bolts in. Next, we will tighten the connecting rod bolts. Using a torque wrench, tighten the two bolts evenly to 9 foot-pounds. Then we will need to clean the sump and cover mating surfaces. Now that the surfaces have been cleaned, apply some Honda Bond gasket material to the sump cover and reinstall it very carefully so as not to damage the shaft seal. Now we can install the sump cover bolts. I'm only running the bolts down, not tightening them yet. We can torque the bolts now. The first pass will be at 9 foot-pounds. The second pass will be at 18 foot-pounds. Now we can reinstall the engine brake assembly. Then the flywheel key. Followed by the flywheel. Then the nut. Now, we will torque the nut with 2 passes. The first will be at 20 foot-pounds. The second will be at 40 foot-pounds. You might have to use a strap wrench to hold the flywheel, or in my case a pinch bar. Install the ignition coil and leave the bolts slightly loose. Insert a long 0.3 mm feeler gauge between the ignition coil and the flywheel and push the coil firmly against the gauge while tightening the bolts. Confirm that the gap is within specifications. Then turn the flywheel to ensure the coil won't hit the flywheel. Next, we will remove the spark plug, then the valve cover. You might need to use a pry bar to remove the cover. Now we will rotate the flywheel clockwise until the intake valve goes in and comes back out. Then install a small screwdriver into the spark plug hole. Then continue rotating until the screwdriver is pushed out as far as it can. Now the engine is at the top dead center and ready to check and adjust the valves. The valve clearance on this engine is 0.1 mm, plus or minus 0.02 millimeters. The exhaust is good, but the intake will need adjusting. To adjust the valve, loosen the nut and adjust the tappet. Once you feel some resistance, tighten the nut. And there we go. Next, we will remove the old gasket material from the valve cover and clean the surface. Then we will reinstall the valve cover after applying some Honda Bond sealant to it. Be sure to hand thread all the screws first. Then tighten them all down. Now we can install a new BPR6 ESNGK spark plug. Tighten it back down. Be sure to leave it unplugged. Now we can reinstall the fuel tank. Then the blower housing. Once it is in place, we can reinstall the 5 bolts and tighten them down. The cover will be next. Now we will continue on the bottom of the mower. We're going to be applying anti-seize to the hardware and crankshaft. It will make it easier for the next person to take it apart. We can install the self-propel pulley and install the belt. Now we will install the belt guide and bolt. hurts. A good practice is to squeeze the belt around the pulley before tightening the guide. Now, we will install the blade adapter and the half-moon key. Be sure to put some anti-seize on the inside of the blade adapter. Make sure the groove and key line up, then push it on. The retaining bolt is next. Install the blades after they have been sharpened and balanced. Now we will fill it back up with oil. Remember not to thread the dipstick when checking the oil. Perfect. Now we can add some fuel to the gas tank. And now we can test it out. Starts good. The drive works too. I guess that can only mean one thing.
It looks like another one is good to go.